There is nothing out there that pisses off a landowner more than trespassers and poachers. If you ask anyone who has hunting land, chances are they have dealt with at least one trespasser at some point. And some of the stories they'll tell you are just so unbelievable, it will give you nightmares. In fact, I just read, I think last week from Realtree, a story about some garbage human being came onto this guy's property and messed with his tree stands. He loosened the ratchet straps enough that any amount of weight that guy would have put on that tree stand, that guy would have fallen, no question. And that is definitely why you should inspect your tree stands before you climb into them. You never know what's been going on your property while you're not there. The only thing you can do is to protect yourself both personally and legally for that eventual trespasser. And make sure that you do it in such a way that you are able to prosecute any trespassers to help prevent it from ever happening again. So in this video, we're going over 5 ways that you can protect yourself and your property from these garbage human beings. And the first thing that every property owner needs to do is to just plaster the border of their property in no trespassing signs. Nothing lets people know that a particular property is off limits than just plastering these signs at least every 50 yards along the border of your property. Now, it may sound like overkill, but what I do is I put these signs up every 50 yards or so, but then in between each, I spray paint that purple paint that lets everybody know that that is private property. It needs to be painfully obvious that that property is off limits. Even if you catch somebody red-handed on your property, it is very difficult to prosecute somebody if there are no signs up. So do yourself a favor and get these signs posted everywhere. And the second thing every property owner needs to do to prevent trespassers is get to know your neighbors. Now, I'm not saying you need to be all Mr. Rogers, buddy-buddy with your neighbors, but you need to let them know who you are and what property is yours. When you introduce yourself, throw in some unsubtle hints that you will be keeping a close eye on that property. Do it with a smile, though. There's no need to be an asshole. Just be nice but firm. And you also need to let them know that you will respect their property boundaries and will not step foot on their property without their permission, and that you expect the same from them. And sometimes just putting a face to the property is enough to discourage any unfortunate incidents. It kind of humanizes the property. It's no longer just someone else's. And you never know. You may be able to convince those neighbors to join a deer cooperative benefiting everybody in the neighborhood. So be neighborly and go introduce yourself. And the third thing you need to do is to screen off your property from any road hunters. Any spot along the border of your property that can be seen into needs to have some kind of sight barrier installed, especially if you can see a food plot or other deer attractant. If you haven't seen my last video about screening off your food plots, give it a watch. A lot of the principles in that video can be applied here. The basic idea here is out of sight, out of mind. If that potential trespasser or poacher can't see that deer or turkey out in that food plot, they'll be less tempted to hop that fence. And the fourth way to prevent trespassers is to keep your mouth shut about the hunting on your property. Loose lips sink ships, or in this case, the deer population. If you are constantly bragging about the monster bucks on your property or the flocks of turkeys just strutting through your fields, you are just asking for somebody to decide to go check that out for themselves. I know it can be hard to resist posting all those pictures of those monster bucks and longbeards that you're tagging. Just don't tell anybody where they're at. It's not always your neighbors that are sneaking onto your property. And the fifth way to prevent trespassers on your property is to use game cameras. Putting up game cameras is probably the top way people think they can protect their property from trespassers, but I put it down at the bottom of the list because of the potential for them to just get stolen. In order for a trespasser to be prosecuted, you have to have a clear and identifiable picture of the person committing that crime. And that involves putting a camera in a spot that can get the best shot. And typically that's not in the most hidden places. Now, I know if you're careful, you can do a good job of hiding that camera and still get those good identifiable pictures, but there's always going to be that risk. The good news is cellular cameras are becoming more and more affordable, so even if they smash or steal your camera, you're going to get that picture. Something else I also do is I'll put those smile you're on camera signs up even in spots where there are no cameras. Just because they can't see the camera doesn't mean the camera's not there. So that was 5 ways you can protect yourself and your property from trespassers and poachers. If you have any stories of trespassers and how you dealt with them, put those down in the comments below. You never know, you may be able to help somebody who's dealing with a particularly nasty trespasser that they just can't seem to catch. And hit that like button if you like this video, if you like what I'm trying to do here on this channel, and make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay informed.